So, hello everyone. My name is Evgenii. Today I will talk about analytics, but let me first introduce myself. I'm actually an iOS software developer. I work for Bolt in the ride-hailing department, and I'm responsible for the passengers experience in our rider app. I also founder of Event Panel. It's a warehouse for analytics, and we will talk about analytics today a lot. And yeah, when I am not working, I do pet projects, and for the last 2 years I ship 4 different mobile applications on Android, on iOS. In a free time, I like riding a motorcycle, but not in the winter, of course. I am not so crazy. And yeah, I have been living in Berlin for 3 years, struggling with German, of course, and preparing for Anbürgerung test right now. Yeah. And I have a question to you. Please raise your hand if you're actually a QA engineer today.
You're what?
Okay, a QA engineer. Oh, great.
Yes.
Yes, keep your hand if you work with a mobile application. Okay, and keep your hand if you work with iOS mobile application. So this topic for you. Not a lot, yeah. What I want to start, that actual developers also do some QA job. In Bolt, for example, we have only 1 QA per 10 engineers. And we already had heard about the definition of done. So my definition of done, that every feature is covered with unit tests to verify business logic that I've wrote, a snapshot test to verify that layout is correct and all the accessibilities are fine, UI test to verify behavior of the app, and of course manual testing. Manual testing helped me to understand that my product actually makes sense. And I really love submitting bugs, especially when I am not a duty person. Because if I am on duty, it's better to wait 1 week and submit bug later. This is one of the examples. It's a feature to change pickup on active order. And as you can see, the suggested pickup is quite off. It's outside of the allowed area. Still in production. So, agenda for today. We'll talk about analytics, what is it, why it's needed, and why company actually care about analytics. We'll talk about bugs, of course, developers, like they are live doing bugs. We'll talk about how to test it. With automated approaches, with unit tests, UI tests, and I will show you some tips how we do testing and manual testing. And the last one, we will talk about the documentation as a process, because as we heard from the previous topic, we could do a lot before starting testing. And it's when we could improve the process. So, App Analytics. App Analytics is a process of collecting data from devices, from application, how users behave, what they're doing with your app, what features they like, what they don't like. It helps you to understand your users better. It helps to improve your product, to make the product decision, to investigate some issues. And every app, most of the web project also, especially product one, they are sending hundreds, millions of events per day. And every app has hundreds of events defined, and most of the user actions in the app already sending some events. For example, when user open a screen, and user tapped on a button, when order is created. And all of this data are needed for teams, for product managers, for analytics, to understand what they should focus on. Which feature is better, feature A or feature B? Should we work on this or on that? Because development is quite pricey stuff. If you will do a lot of features that nobody uses, what's the point, right? Or if you're doing a feature, for example, or on history screen, but only 1% of all the users are visiting the screen. So all the analytics are helping people to make the decisions. And they're using analytics services like Mixpanel, Google Analytics, Firebase Analytics, Amplitude to build dashboards, to visualize this data. That it's not just millions of events. Now it's graphs. Now it's funnels and insights where you can build it and see how many users open a screen from Android, or how many users actually sign up for this week, and how many of them are just gone. They didn't do any action with your app, right? And analytics, as any other feature, are written by developers. Yeah, and it's easy to break it. And there are a lot of ways how to break it. Trust me, I know. The most common one, that events just not firing, and you have no data to analyze. It means that on a feature kickoff, on a new ideation, you just have to use your gut feeling. Should you do it or not? Because there are no events. Or you can spend 2 or 3 weeks aiding events, waiting for them to be rolled out and waiting for some results. And another issue could be if the event has a wrong list of parameters. It's not enough to focus on a particular case. It could be that the event sent twice for some reason. You just define it twice, you just send it twice, right? And it leads all your dashboards showing you some picture, but it could be absolutely wrong picture, and you could do some assumptions that it works, but it's not. It's probably not so interesting to the users. Events could be lost during updates, during refactorings, migrations, so everything the developer does, they could break everything, of course. And what is the impact of that? Yeah, the team could focus on their own thing. It's also delay feature releases. So if you finish with a feature and you want to ship it, usually in a product team, we are shipping features on the experiments, and everything should be ready for that. But if the events are missing, you can't run the test. You can't launch the feature because you will be blind. You won't have any result from that, right? So if there is some bug in analytics, you have to create a ticket, send it to developers, wait while they fix it, and wait a couple more weeks to release it. Yeah. Even with weekly releases, we still have a lot of time that we need to spend to ship the feature. Better not to do any bugs. So how we can achieve it? As I said, we could start from unit tests. And here on the slide, the example of event. So there is a payload screen and subscribe button. When a user taps on the button, the app fires an event. An event with a list of parameters that's focus on what condition around, what is the environment where the event was triggered. Actually, you can take a look at the naming of the event. It's also one of the important stuff of notation, how you name the events, right? Here's an example. We use first a name of the screen, a name of the element, it's a button, and the action. It helps you with search. It helps you to not define the same event in different places, because it could happen. If you just call it like button tapped, and it's for some reason sent from 2 different places, and you are not aware of that, your dashboard is fucked up. Here's how event looks in code. It's in Swift for iOS, but it's a common practice because all the event definitions are specified by the platforms, like analytics platforms, and we have a lot of them, and they have to choose some format. So event has a name and a dictionary of parameters that specify at what condition the event was fired. So what we want to do, we want to write some unit tests. Like, let's start from the basic. Yes, please.
Should we keep the questions at the last, or
It would be nice to keep it.
at the last?
Yes. Thank you. So unit test. Unit test has 3 steps. first step, we need to create some mocks for our testable object. In our case, we will test an interactor, a class of the system, a class of the screen that is responsible for business logic. First of all, we need to create a mocked analytics manager. A mocked object allows you to investigate it and to see how many times it was called and with which arguments. Next, what we do, we trigger the action. We are pretending that we are a UI and we are some button, and we are calling like subscribe button tapped. And at this point, we're expecting that our class, our interactor, will first create an event that we saw before, and with the right name, and pass it to the analytics manager. We also can check the full list of parameters that we're expecting, and that's all. So that's what developers do to verify that analytics actually working with a unit test. But unit tests are focusing on one single piece of the system. So now we tested just an interactor. It's one of the component of one screen, right? But the system itself is quite complex. It's already good if your developers do such tests. But as a QA, we have you have, and I'm today also. We have a really low power on it. We can't participate in that, probably. It's quite complex to write. It's complex to review, and it's actually developer responsibility. And who trusts the developers, right? So where we have much more flexibility in UI tests. So let's try to write a UI test on another case. It's our bolt up, and there is some stories on the bottom sheet. And when the stories appears on the screen and they are loaded, the app fires an event in app story preview shown with a list of parameters. What we want to do, we want to write a UI test. And UI test has 4 steps actually. The first one is the same as with unit 1. We need to set up an environment. We need to set up a mock. In our case, we are mocking that we are on an active order in a searching state. The second stage, we need to launch the app. The third one, we verify UI. As any UI test, we need to be sure that the view is on the screen. But the last step is what we invented actually this year for analytics. You can add an additional step that verifies that when the element was shown, it triggered an event and the event was sent. And you can also check the name and the parameters. And it's here, it's where it could be added to any UI test actually. So it's actually the most complicated part for you. We can skip it and discuss how it works. Actually, there is an app and a UI test, and they need to communicate with each other. So on the app side, we are creating also kind of mock analytics services that just stores all the events that were fired. And on the UI test side, we can ask the app, send us all the events that were listed before and verify. You can verify the duplicates, for example, to be sure that this event that we are expecting was sent only once, right? We can verify the order of events that we expected the first button was shown and only after that the button was stopped. And what is the power of UI tests? It's more stable during the refactoring. When the developers do changing some files, renaming classes, migrating from one architecture pattern to another, using like different concurrency approaches, the UI could stay the same. And we actually faced it once while we started doing the UI tests, because we broke a few events in the funnel during the migrations. We launched it as a test, and we had like 2 versions, but in the new versions there were no events at all. Even if the unit tests were on the first original one. And now the analytics becomes a part of your documentation, testing documentation. You could add this step of verification in your test cases, and it could be automated. Actually, you need only once to set the environment to provide the new API to verify analytics. You can ask your developers, they can spend a few hours for you and provide the API. And after that, you can add a new additional step to any UI test. And actually, it should work on Android, on iOS, and even with Kotlin multi-platform. I guess it's absolutely the same way. But still, okay, if you don't have any UI tests, or if you don't write UI tests, or even if you write a lot of UI tests, there is still a manual check. And there are a few things that we could do to check the analytics. First of all, there are a built-in feature in Firebase Analytics that we could use for debugging. The second one, I will show you how we use a console app as an alternative to Xcode log. And the third one, I will show you how we built an overlay window in the app to show and to make the events accessible for any of employees actually, and how it helps us. So first one, it's kind of built-in feature. It works with iOS, Android, and web. If you're using Firebase Analytics, you can use it for testing it. It works only with the physical devices. It doesn't work with a simulator, and it needs to be set up. And the first step of setup, you need to have a flag in a schema that is kind of debug build that will fire the events in the Firebase console. The second one, you will see in a stream of events when you're working with the app, going to the screens, it will fire the events, and you will see them in real time with all their parameters. It's already good, but yeah, as I said, it requires a physical device, Xcode, build, and run. Second option, you can just print analytics in a console. But here's how looks a Xcode console. So it's 2025. It still doesn't have filters, normal preview, formatting, and just a plain text, and you have a search. That's everything that Apple provided for us. But as an alternative, you already have an installed in your Mac OS console app that you could use for logs. It's easy to use, it has a filters, it has a search, and you can format the messages. Format in a way that would be useful for testing, right? For example, here we splitted the parameters of event by two parts, that even specific parameters and generic parameters, and sort them in alphabetical order. Now it's easy to test, it's visible, you can save the filter and do some actions in the app and see the logs here. On the app side, what we need to do, we need to use a special logger. It's one of the foundational class that we need to use. We need to specify the name of the app. We need to specify the scope that it's about analytics for our filtering, and we need to format message before sending them. So now it's a pretty printed JSON and it's easy to use. The last step, even having this console log, I still, as a developer, received a bunch of questions. What events is sent at this point when the user creates an order? From analytics, from products, from different teams. And the second question, I've already built some dashboard, but it doesn't look right. What happens? And I work in native mobile development. We have Android and iOS, two separate applications. And to answer this question, you have to go deeper into the code, find the place, find the event, find the explanation, what it does, when it's used, when it was added, and answer all these questions regularly. What we did for that, we added an overlay window, actually, for employees. So now every interested party could open the app, could make some tabs, and to see what events are fired at this point. Exactly. Now you can take two apps, Android and iOS, and walk through the flows and see that they are sending the same events. So we went through the whole pyramid of testing. We saw how we could cover it with unit tests, with UI tests, and what we could do for manual testing. Actually, I was really surprised how QA are struggling with like Firebase console, it takes you so much, and they show you all the events, and that is the Qase sent with all the list of parameters. And I am as a developer, when I started doing that testing, I always wanted to simplify it, to make it faster, to make it more productive for everyone. So even in QA part of the job, we can optimize it a lot. But the last thing about the documentation, because like in the previous topic that was said, that probably we could catch some bugs much earlier, right, than on the test stage. There are still some issues that could left, even if we did the testing, even with the right unit test and UI test. For example, one of the common issues for native mobile developers is mismatching events between platforms, right? Because people are split, they are working remotely, the feature could be developed in different timeline, right? And you can have a unit test on event on Android, on iOS, but at the end they're different, they're named differently. And it leads that you have to create like 2 different dashboards and compare the data by yourself manually. Another issue could be that events just were changed during the development, and now they're like the events are not in the expectation. It could be like different names. There could be typos. I've seen a lot when the space at the end, in the middle, when there are some misspelling inside the words, and
What a lovely relationship.
exactly. And some QA will find you.
That's a feature.
Yes. Here's some examples. It's one of the case, easy to do. Different strategies, different conventions for names. And I, as a developer, I would like to write this. So I would like to use some code generation. I would not want to write the names manually and define the events in multiple places. The third one about naming convention. You can see how many notations are used at this event definition, and it's a production code, and it's still there. You can use a snack case, camel case, title case, and after that, someone new, a new person in a team, and new analytics should work with it. And not every documentation actually is good documentation, because if you tell me that I need to move 600 events from the code to some design doc or some Google spreadsheet, it would be insane. Moreover, the documentation is easily to become outdated, right? And you have to manually sync them with code. Every change that you do in code, you need to go and update it in the analytics specification, right? Don't forget, exactly. And it's all about like humans. And someone could change it any day, and they should notify you. But if they don't, we will end up like with Figma. I actually have it a lot when Figma changes, a new mockups appears, buttons change the color, and after like a few months, we see that our app doesn't follow the Figma at all. Absolutely. It slows down the process because we need to define events on Android and on iOS manually. We need to sync them manually. We need to like take much more attention to the testing of events. Here's how analytics could look like. It's a spreadsheet for almost 3,000 of lines with screenshots, comments that anybody can come and change some things, rename the events, remove it, add a new one. Screenshots always outdated, of course. It's already not our app. So, what could be a trustable documentation? From the developer experience, I would expect that it's something that I can use as a single source of truth. It's something where I can find all the data about analytics. I would like to have the code generation because I don't want to copy-paste all the names, all the parameters manually in the code. I would like to have autocomplete to be sure that it's the Android guys already use it, that I don't need to sync it up manually. And it should be simple to integrate because, as I said, migrating events from code even from the spreadsheet to some system another, it's a nightmare. From the analytics perspective, they're also struggling with that, especially when a new joiners comes to the company and they need to start working with analytics, making dashboards, making KPIs, right? And they have to ask developers every time to find all these 600 events and how they're implemented without documentation, right? It would be nice to have approval workflow. If I edit a new event, I would like to have a confirmation from other parties that it's okay to have, because some parameters could be not possible to achieve, or some of them are missing, or some of them are, we can suggest some new parameters and new cases for events. And from the QA perspective, I still believe that if you're using code generation for analytics, it's much less bugs in production because there are no typos at all. Yeah, we are not defining it manually, and it should be like a single source of truth. So you can link it to Jira tickets, you can link it to test cases specification. It should be one place that you use from everywhere. So with all of this problem, like 2 years ago, I started a project with Event Panel. It's a warehouse for events that should solve a couple of these problems. I will show you how we could work with it. So first of all, the migration. As I said, defining 600 events manually, it's insane. So one of the options is just make an import or use our modern AI agents and to ask them to delegate the work to them. Go through my code, find the events, add them to the table, and do the code generation. Replace it for me. So send him and go drink coffee. That's the plan. It's a typed table. It's a spreadsheet only for analytics. It allows you to group events by categories, and category could be a screen or a web page. It can be specified the platform where the event is triggered, on iOS, on Android. You can specify code owners, who owns this event, which team, who you need to ask if you need some questions, if you need to update it, if you need to remove it, right? It allows you to add the description, add a screenshot, at what place the event is used in your app. It also supports all the list of parameters with their types, with optionality, property. So you can specify and describe it at one place. It also knows how to validate events. There are different strategies that you can specify for each of the entities that you are using, like for event, for category, or for property. And the last thing, of course, it should support code generation, because we don't want to copy-paste the data in multiple places. We want to define it once, and as a developer, I just write one line, like, please add an event with a name, and that's all. And it will be generated with documentation, with all the types there. And it will work the same on Android, on web. I don't need to think about it. It doesn't support everything that I want today, and we are working on it. For example, one of the nice features that we are introducing very soon, it's a notification. It's the same problem as with Figma. If Figma is changing, nobody knows about it. But with analytics, it's much easier because you can split it by teams. You can set the exactly code owners. You can set the Slack channel where you need to send a message when some analytics will require it to add for the new features, for example. It's actually in beta testing right now. We are gathering some feedback, and we are actually looking for a QA for our system, as I say, as a part-time opportunity. So to recap, analytics is quite important stuff of product development, and most of the product team are working with analytics. And companies spend hundreds of thousands € on the system, like Mixpanel, like Firebase Analytics, like Amplitude, to analyze the data, to visualize them. But the problem is that they can't trust it. And they still have to hire analytics engineers, right? And do queries to databases to fetch the data, and spend hours on investing in to try to provide some help for product decisions. But what we could do, we could improve the process. We could start writing some tests. We can simplify the process of manual testing, and we could improve the whole process of development and raise the quality of our data that we are collecting. Thank you.